This is you. You're a Cold War soldier. Only you're not holding a gun, you're gripping the air because you think it's a gun. The trees are breathing. Your commanding officer has melted into a puddle, and you just tried to salute a squirrel. You're not on a battlefield, you're on acid. The government put it in your water to test how you'd react. You were supposed to be ready to fight the Russians. Instead, you're locked in a staring contest with a rock, and next thing you know, you're staring at your hands like they're melting popsicles. The clouds are whispering your name, and your rifle is trying to tell you a secret. Welcome to the Cold War while being on LSD. You don't know it yet, but this is all part of a wonderful little chapter in American military history known as MK Ultra, a charming collection of classified experiments where the CIA decided to play mad scientists with psychedelics. Why? Because apparently, in between trying to win the nuclear arms race, they wanted to see if they could mind control people. You know, for freedom. It's the 1950s. You're 19, you joined the military to get out of your hometown, maybe pay for school. Instead, you're now part of Operation Delirium, or Project Bluebird, or whatever other ridiculous codename they slapped on this madness to make it sound official. You're sitting in a room with a few other soldiers, none of whom know they're about to take the mental equivalent of a ride through hell in a clown car. No one told you what was going on. Not really. They just said, chemical warfare training. You thought they meant it was mustard gas, not acid. Your supposed general hands you a glass of water. You drink it. You're told to observe your reactions. And then, the floor starts breathing. Within 45 minutes, you're dripping in sweat, grinning uncontrollably, and talking to a filing cabinet. The guy next to you is saluting the wall. One guy starts crying because he's convinced he's turned into a tree. Another tries to eat his shoelaces. One soldier was dosed with acid and then ran into the forest screaming that he was being hunted. He climbed a tree and tried to eat bark. Not exactly combat ready. A psychologist behind a one-way mirror is scribbling furiously, trying to make sure he gets all of his observation notes down. Oh, and you don't sleep for 3 days. Let's back up, because this isn't even science. It was an experiment run by a drunk government. The CIA and Army tested LSD on thousands of people. Some volunteered, most didn't. Some were told, most weren't. They used soldiers, prisoners, mental patients, even random civilians. You could walk into a bar in San Francisco, order a drink, and find yourself tripping balls because the bartender was on the CIA payroll. That's not a joke. That's Operation Midnight Climax. An actual thing. Look it up. It sounds like a bad adult film, but it was a real experiment where they hired prostitutes to lure men to CIA safe houses, dosed them with LSD, and then filmed them through two-way mirrors, because Cold War, as if that makes it any better. The higher-ups said LSD could be used to weaken enemies, disorient soldiers, extract secrets, basically mind control and hypnosis. Some of them thought it might make you more obedient. Others thought it could trigger telepathy. A few were just bored and wanted to see what would happen, as long as it wasn't happening to them. It only lasted about 8 to 12 hours, but it distorts reality and makes following orders or reacting quickly extremely difficult. So good luck going to war and shooting a gun like that. Military researchers brainstormed the idea of spraying LSD over enemy troops to confuse them into surrendering, because obviously a hallucinating army with AKs is a flawless idea. They basically wanted to treat it like an atomic bomb and drop it on enemy soldiers. While testing sensory distortion on acid, several Cold War test subjects reported seeing UFOs or God. One guy even tried to salute an alien. In some cases, they'd give prisoners or soldiers LSD and isolate them in pitch-black rooms for hours just to see what would happen. Spoiler, hallucinations, screaming, and total breakdown. I don't know about you, but I'm sure glad that isn't me. In one military video from the 1950s, a group of soldiers are seen playing with their guns, giggling uncontrollably, and rolling in the grass like preschoolers. 5 minutes earlier, they had perfect marching formation. These were trained killers. 20 minutes later, they're petting trees and asking if bullets have feelings. If you were an unlucky victim, some things you might experience would be that time doesn't exist anymore. You stare at your boots for 6 hours. They start to whisper state secrets. You laugh, you cry, you piss yourself a little. Your commander says, walk in a straight line. You try. You end up hugging a tree because you thought it was your mother. You're a Cold War soldier on a full-blown acid trip, and nobody, not even the people in charge, really know what the hell they're doing. Eventually, the trip ends. Kind of. You never really come back the same. The color green gives you flashbacks. You flinch when someone drops a fork. Your friends think you're weird now. You have dreams of floating in space and whispering clouds. You don't talk about it because you signed a form, basically an old-fashioned NDA. Some soldiers were dosed over and over again. One guy was given LSD 77 days in a row. Another soldier, Frank Olson, allegedly jumped out of a hotel window after being secretly dosed and having a mental breakdown. The government called it suicide. 40 years later, they exhumed his body. He had blunt force trauma to the head. You know, classic falling out of a window injuries. His family got a payout and a lot of silence. There were no rules, no consent, no therapy, just experiments. If you complained, you were called crazy. If you refused, you were threatened. Some people ended up in institutions. Some lost their minds. A few, like you, just went back to base and tried to pretend none of it happened. Now, everyone take out a piece of paper and let's talk about the science. LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide, was discovered in 1938 and weaponized by the US in the 1950s. It's a psychedelic that distorts perception, warps time, and basically turns your brain into a kaleidoscope. And for some reason, the government thought this would be a good way to win wars. At one point, they tried to put it in aerosol form. The goal? Spray a village, make everyone trip, then invade while the locals are too busy talking to their furniture. Genius. The Cold War started in 1947. They mostly did this, so-called testing from the 1950s to the 60s. And the Cold War didn't even end until 1991. So basically, you went through all of that testing and lifelong damage for, nothing. They even tried LSD grenades, literal acid bombs. A handful of men involved in these secret tests were permanently psychologically damaged. Years later, they had memory loss, paranoia, or breakdowns, and were told they imagined the whole thing, because records were destroyed or redacted. After the programs shut down, the military denied much of it. Many soldiers were never told they were dosed with LSD. Some didn't find out until decades later through declassified reports or lawsuits. Your life was a side project. Your trauma was a footnote in a declassified memo. And no one ever said sorry.